We all watched the Padma Awards, or at least saw pictures from the ceremony this week. And standing tall among the winners was entrepreneur and industrialist Sanjeev Bikhchandani, who was awarded the Padma Shri by the President of India in the trade and industry category for his work over the years of building InfoEdge and also investing in several internet startups that have gone on to become unicorns. Sanjeev, thank you so much for joining us. And firstly, hearty congratulations on the Padma Shri. It really was a very proud moment for all of us, for the entire startup ecosystem. Take us through your emotions on winning this honor. In fact, you tweeted saying that you accepted this award on behalf of startups in India. What does this mean for you and for entrepreneurs in the country?
Well, I think, first of all, this award was announced in January 2020, and the ceremony last year was postponed because of COVID. So it only happened just now, but it's been sort of been announced in January 2020. So it was not a surprise new announcement for me. But obviously, once you get it, I mean, it's a great ceremony, but and all of that. But it's still sinking in, so it's not really sunk in yet. So I don't think I have any emotions as such. But obviously, one is grateful, one is honored, and yes, I sort of accept it. But I also realized that look, what I have said in my internal WhatsApp in the company, which is an elaboration of what I wrote on Twitter, which is look, I am getting this award as a recognition for all the work that InfoEdge has done and that's been done at InfoEdge or using InfoEdge as a platform. Now, InfoEdge is not one person's creation. So although, I get the award, it's actually for everybody in the company. Those who worked in the past, those who are currently working there, the original founders, senior management, Hitesh, Amrish, Chintan, everybody, all senior management and all junior management as well. So look, it's an award for everyone, but yes, I received it.
Definitely the Padma Award winners were announced earlier, but yes, you did receive the award from the President this week. And in fact, you also had an interaction with Prime Minister Modi himself at the award ceremony. You said that he was bullish on startups and he was happy at the bounce back in the employment and hiring as per the Naukri JobSpeak Index. Could you just share some highlights from that conversation? Because the Prime Minister has frequently spoken about the startup ecosystem, the number of unicorns and the job creation in the sector. What did he discuss with you?
No, see, the short conversation, right? He was meeting all the awardees one by one. So it wasn't a long, detailed conversation. But look, it was pretty clear from the beginning. He just said, Sanjeev ji, आप तो pioneer रहे हैं. आपने startup चालू किया, उसके बाद सब प्रेरित हुए और सब लोगों ने startup करना किया. So he's obviously very, very happy with the large number of startups being, the whole startup ecosystem, the way it's moving in India, the number of startups coming up, people trying. Some companies getting built, many others trying, funding happening, Digital India happening. So that whole thing, I think he's really happy with. And he made that clear to me. You could make out in his voice, you could make out he was excited, right? And then, I said, look, what we are seeing from the vantage point of Naukri is that jobs are coming back. And we have, he said, of course, I've seen your index. Yes, jobs are coming back, and that's great news. So he was happy about these two things, and that was really the sum and substance of the discussion.
Okay, a short chat with the Prime Minister, but definitely bullish on startups. Coming to your journey, Sanjeev, you've had over 25-year journey since starting InfoEdge. In fact, a lot of entrepreneurs and everyone from India Inc. was wishing you, and in fact, some of them said that you actually founded the Indian internet ecosystem. Can you take us right to the start of it all and what it was like starting up an internet company in India at that time, and also what some of the highlights have been of your journey, including maybe if you can point out some mistakes that you made, some missed opportunities?
So look, first of all, I think it's an exaggeration to say I started it. I did not start it. I think Rediff was there before us. I think Sifi was there before us. IndiaMart was there before us. I think, I think Rajesh Jain was one of the pioneers. I think Ajit Balakrishnan, I think a few others, right? So we were all pioneers together in India. I was one of them. Yes, we are survivors. Yes, but then so are several others. I think Deep Kalra was early. He's around. MakeMyTrip is around. I think IndiaMart is around. Matrimony is around. Shaadi is around. So we are all around, right? And yes, several people sort of didn't, make it till here. But that's part of life, yeah? Entrepreneurship is Darwinian. It's survival of the fittest. Now, look, in the beginning, of course, infrastructure was poor, capital was scarce, the internet penetration was low. So when we launched, there were only 14,000 internet accounts in the country. It was a small medium. and we had no idea where it would go. We just tried a nifty small thing, and it turned out to be a big thing. And we got lucky. We worked hard. We worked smart, and we got lucky. Right place, right time. Now, having said that, look, entrepreneurship rewards those who are persistent, right? And we were persistent. We stayed on. We hung on. Went through meltdown number one. We went public. We went through the global financial crisis. We came through it. So I think you got to hang on in there, and I think that's a big lesson for me. Did we make mistakes? I'm sure we did. We were perhaps underinvested in technology early on. There was no tech person at the top table full time in the company, and that made a big difference. But I think by the time around the early 2000s, we had begun to invest a lot more in technology, so that we transformed. So there have been mistakes, but I think we've recovered from them fairly well.
But definitely, Sanjeev, you're more than just survivors that you call yourself and some of the other internet companies. You were the starting point for the whole, internet ecosystem. And you, of course, did talk about some mistakes that you had in your journey as well. Now, you've been at the forefront of supporting the startup ecosystem. And this year seems to be the coming of age for startups, with a whole beeline of startups looking to tap the public markets. In fact, some of your own portfolio companies, such as Zomato, of course, they've gone public. Policybazaar will list in the coming week. There's also a huge retail interest for the companies. But Sanjeev, while there is this whole IPO frenzy, there's also growing concern about the valuations, the lack of, clarity on the profitability. What do you make of this whole IPO rush of companies, that are still growing? There is no clear path to profitability, and they're seeking huge valuations at astronomical multiples of their sales.
So two things. One is they're not just seeking valuations, they're getting them, which means there are investors, and institutional investors are smart people who are giving them those valuations. So they must be knowing something, seeing something, and therefore doing it. Prior to that, in the private markets, they've got similar valuations. So it's not as if people are smoking dope and investing. That's not the case. Second is very many of these companies can turn a profit pretty quickly if they choose to, within a year or two. And I think as long as you can turn a profit when required, if required, and right now you're prioritizing growth and therefore losing money, it's okay. I think that's fairly commonplace in the US stock exchanges to have listings of these sort of companies. I think the Indian markets also now have come to terms with a loss-making company going public, so long as there's a path to profit within the foreseeable future. So I'm not too fussed about that. Now, are valuations rich? The public markets are at all-time highs right now. And it's not just IPO companies whose valuations are high. I think every company's valuation is high. So if you look at Info Edge valuation, our share price prior to COVID was about 2,300 rupees, 2,400 rupees, I forget. Right now, it's close to 6,000 rupees or thereabouts. Now, have the fundamentals of the company gone up 2.7x, improved? I don't know. But look, there's liquidity in the market, and that's driving all prices up. And that's a fact, and that's a reality.
You did mention that these companies could turn a profit when required. What do you think is a rational timeline for these companies to look at profitability and turn profitable?
Well, look, I don't think anybody has a date target. It's about milestones and objectives and goals and targets and what do you want to achieve by when. And if that is achievable and achieved, and in the process you are burning money, it's okay so long as that's a worthwhile target and it's strategically important to achieve that target. But yeah, 2-3 years I think should be a reasonable sort of time frame to turn a profit.
Okay, so you're saying 2-3 years is a reasonable time frame for a profit. I want to ask you, Sanjeev, would you buy a Zomato or a Paytm at this price? If yes, why? And if not, why not?
Okay, so listen, I've not studied Paytm closely, so I wouldn't know. I haven't seen the data. But Zomato we know very well, and we are holding on. We sold only 5% of our stake in the IPO, and we are still in there. And so obviously that tells you something about what we think of the company. But look, about these companies, I think these are not companies which you buy and sell every quarter, according to me. If you believe the 10-year story, you buy and you hang on. And that's the way I look at it in many of these companies. So if you look at Info Edge, I think from the IPO price in 2006 to now, we've probably given 70 or 80x return. I don't know the exact number, but it'll be in that region, right? That's a pretty good return over a 15-year period. I believe many of these companies are capable of giving those kind of returns.
All right.
but you got to hold on for a while.
All right. So buy and hang on for a while is what you are saying. And I do want to ask you,
if you know, I'm saying if you believe, I'm saying if you believe the 10-year story of a company, and each company is different, right? You could buy company A, not company B. But if you believe the 10-year story, then you stay on for 10 years.
Okay, if you believe in the long-term story. And I remember, Sanjeev, when Zomato had listed, you had shared this table of the multiples, the returns that you had made, about 1000x returns on the first check that you had given to Zomato. What are your expectations like from Policybazaar?
Look, Policybazaar, I think entry valuation matters. Policybazaar, we've gone in slightly at a higher price. And therefore, we won't get that kind of X, but it'll be a very, very good return.
Okay, okay. While we're talking about Zomato, Policybazaar, now Zomato just announced its Q2 numbers yesterday, and they also unveiled their inorganic growth strategy through investments in new age companies. I want to know, what do you make of Zomato's move to model itself along InfoEdge's lines, especially given that the company is still to make profits and it's using the capital raised from investors? I really want to know, did Dipinder have a chat with you to get some advice on this strategy?
Look, we keep talking. I'm on the board, right? And I really can't, I'm not a spokesperson for Zomato, so I shouldn't be talking about Zomato. But I assure you of one thing, Dipinder isn't modeling, Zomato isn't modeling itself on InfoEdge. They're following their own path, doing what makes sense for them. And if inorganic growth is a part of it, if investments is a part of it, so be it. They're not copying InfoEdge. They're independent, and they're original thinkers.
But overall, what do you make of this strategy? Is this they are trying to model a Tencent, an InfoEdge, and Alibaba? What do you make of this strategy?
Well, actually, they are not copying anybody, according to me. They're doing what they think makes sense for them. Right now, if they regard groceries as and logistics and delivery as a big part of the future and their future, potentially, then they will go in that direction. Now, you can make or you can buy. And I think they've said that, listen, we are focused on food as make, and the rest we can do inorganically, at least to start with, and then see how it goes. So I think it's a fairly sound strategy, and they've thought it through.
I do want to ask you about, the entry of the big conglomerates in this tech and internet world with their super apps, etc., the Tatas, Reliance, etc. What do you make of this move? And of course, there's going to be a lot of consolidation, which is already happening in the startup ecosystem. Is it a threat for startups, or is it actually something that will benefit startups?
Look, some of these big companies will compete with some startups, some standalone companies. And they are also consolidation opportunities. So it's an opportunity for investors to get an exit. If investors get an exit and it's a good valuation, they will invest more. So by and large, I think it's positive for the whole ecosystem. And look, if you can compete with a well-funded startup, you can compete with the big conglomerate. That's okay. You shouldn't be afraid of competition. So I think it's good. It validates the thesis. When the Tatas and Reliance start looking at digital companies or the digital space seriously, the digital space will come of age. Right? It's a validation. It's a potential exit for investors, some of them. And yes, others will have to raise their game to compete with them. But also understand one more thing, that a nimble owner-managed startup with talented founders, committed founders, will not be easy to beat even for these large conglomerates.
Absolutely, absolutely. But is a super app the future now? Offering all kinds of services on one single platform, is that what the future of the internet ecosystem that will look like?
Look, super apps that have been tried so far, in India, I don't know how many have succeeded. Like if you have one app that gives you everything, versus a vertical, right? So will an app that also gives restaurants and plumbers and carpenters and electricians and clothes and soap and detergent be a better offering for restaurants and food compared to Zomato? I don't know. I don't think so. So super apps, it's easy to say. It's a hard act to actually execute and follow. So I don't know about super apps. I have my doubts.
Okay, you have your doubts about super apps. Okay,
So look,
changing gears a little bit and
we are
coming
great.
back to the whole growth versus.
So listen, we are great believers in verticals. We have got 4 verticals in our own company: jobs, matrimony, real estate, and education. And we believe, one brand, one promise. And therefore, focused verticals is the way forward, according to us. But look, I could be wrong, but I think the focused vertical is the way forward.
Focused vertical is the way forward. That's what Sanjeev Bikhchandani thinks. I want to come back to the whole the topic of growth versus profitability. What is your focus on? What do you value more, growth or profitability?
Well, obviously, you need both, right? According to me. But look, I recognize that early on in a company's life cycle, it will not get to profit, especially if competition is well funded and is burning money, and you got to respond. Uh, Perhaps 20 years ago, when competition was less and less capitalized, you could put profit on priority the way InfoEdge did. So, but today, with the kind of competition, the kind of capital available, it may be harder. So people postpone profits because they defend market share. They postpone profits because they defend growth. And eventually they get to profit at a much larger scale.
Okay, okay. And a lot of entrepreneurs, it very evidently in India look up to you as a role model. I want to know who is your role model, someone you look up to.
Look, I don't have any role models. I don't have any single role models. You learn many things from different people and different things from different people. So I must be having 100, 200, 500 people in my life in the past, currently, who I have learned from. They could be my classmates at school, classmates from college, at business schools, colleagues in my first job, seniors, juniors, peers, colleagues at InfoEdge, and people from the industry. So you learn different things from different people. I learned so much from the entrepreneurs we have invested behind. I learned from my investing team.
Okay, so you have, of course, you have multiple role models then, and apart from the companies that you have backed, I want to know what are some startups, or who are some entrepreneurs that you are, willing to place your bet on, who is building something really exciting.
So look, every one of the investee companies in our portfolio, we believe in them, which is why we invested. Now, not all startups work out and become big companies, but at the time when we go in, we believe in them. And several of them have lived up to the promise, and even those who haven't were actually very good entrepreneurs, but perhaps they were hit by something unexpected. There are many companies we haven't invested in which became big and great, but all the companies we invested in, we believe in them. That's why we invest.
All right, Sanjeev. Lastly, coming to the whole topic of economic recovery. Now, the Naukri Jobs Week Index that I mentioned earlier for October shows that job hiring activities surpassed pre-pandemic levels. Even COVID-impacted sectors such as hospitality, travel, retail are seeing strong growth. Overall, what are your comments on the economic recovery? How are you looking at the recovery post the second wave?
I think clearly from Naukri data, the bounce back looks like it's strong. Right? And it is now more than a secular. Although it started off with IT, I think it's now spread to other sectors. And that's good news. So long as there's no debilitating third wave, I think we'll be all right.
Okay. So you're confident of the recovery. And finally, any message to entrepreneurs who are looking up to you, who are ready to hit the public markets? What kind of message do you have for these companies, these unicorns?
Well, those who are preparing to go public, I think the kind of scrutiny and microscope you come under, the kind of rigor of compliance, the kind of corporate standards that you have to sort of aspire to as a public company is a order of magnitude different from as when you're a private company with a few investors. And therefore, and I'm sure these people, these companies understand that. We are all told that, we are schooled in that, before we go public. But yeah, you have to be aware that of all these things, and therefore gear up accordingly in terms of your staffing, in terms of your practices, in terms of whatever you want to implement inside the company. it's a different order of COPGov, different order of compliance when once you go public.
All right, Sanjeev, thank you so much for joining us. And once again, congratulations on the Padma Shri.
Thank you so much. Thank you. Thank you.